If you spend more than 5 minutes scrolling through any wellness feed today, you are going to see a very specific kind of promise. You'll see influencers holding up bottles, staring directly into the camera, and claiming that this one specific white powder completely cured their anxiety, gave them the best sleep of their entire life, or entirely reversed their brain fog. And almost always that powder is magnesium. But if you actually walk into a health food store, you aren't just met with magnesium, you are staring at a wall of glycinate, threonate, malate, citrate, taurate oxide. It is completely overwhelming, and it begs a very obvious question. If this mineral is such a universal magical cure-all, why on earth do we need 12 different versions of it?
That is exactly where the illusion begins. We have taken a fundamental, biologically essential mineral and turned it into the ultimate marketing chameleon. The reality is that magnesium is genuinely important for human physiology. It is not fake science. But the marketing surrounding it has become deeply, deeply distorted, because magnesium glycinate, magnesium threonate, and magnesium malate are simply not the same thing. They behave differently in the body, they were studied under completely different clinical parameters, and yet many supplement companies intentionally blur those scientific boundaries to sell you a miracle.
It feels like magnesium has transitioned from being a basic mineral on the periodic table to functioning as the emotional support molecule of the internet. People are treating it like a Marvel superhero that can swoop in and fix the collateral damage of modern life. But before we get into how the wellness industry has weaponized these different forms, let's establish the baseline. The body does actually need this stuff, right? We aren't just talking about expensive placebo dust.
Not at all. The biological necessity of magnesium is absolute. It is a cofactor in hundreds of biochemical reactions in the human body. We are talking about the fundamental mechanics of life: muscle contraction, nerve signaling, the production of ATP for cellular energy, the regulation of blood pressure, and the baseline functioning of your central nervous system. And there is a valid argument that modern diets, which are heavily processed and grown in mineral-depleted soils, contribute to suboptimal magnesium intake for a lot of people. That foundational part of the narrative is entirely real.
So the core issue isn't the mineral itself. The issue is how the wellness industry has decided to treat every single variation of magnesium as if it's this identical, hyper-targeted magic spell. Let's break these down, starting with the absolute darling of the internet right now, magnesium glycinate. This is the one everyone brands as the calm magnesium or the sleep magnesium. People swear it is the ultimate off switch for an anxious brain. What is actually happening biologically when someone takes glycinate?
Magnesium glycinate is simply magnesium bound to glycine. Glycine is an amino acid that acts as an inhibitory neurotransmitter in the central nervous system, meaning it generally has a calming effect. It helps downregulate arousal. Furthermore, the glycinate form is highly bioavailable and is far less likely to cause the gastrointestinal distress, let's call it the laxative effect, that you get from cheaper forms like magnesium oxide. So, you have a highly absorbable magnesium paired with a relaxing amino acid. There is genuine research showing that improving magnesium status can support sleep architecture, particularly if the person was deficient to begin with. But the way the internet translates that science is wildly exaggerated.
Right? The translation goes from "this may support nervous system regulation" to "this pill cured my decade-long insomnia in 20 minutes." Science always seems to lose its nuance the second it hits a social media algorithm.
Exactly. And that loss of nuance is dangerous because sleep physiology is incredibly complex. If you are struggling with sleep, you are dealing with a web of variables. What is your cortisol timing? Are you staring at blue light until midnight? How is your circadian rhythm? Is your nervous system in a state of chronic hyperarousal from a high-stress job? Magnesium glycinate might gently support the biological pathways that facilitate relaxation, but it is not a pharmaceutical sedative. It cannot magically override the physiological chaos of a terrible lifestyle.
It's like trying to put out a forest fire with a single glass of water, a very high quality glass of water, sure, but the fire is still raging. So glycinate is reasonable for gentle support, but it's not the magic off switch we've been sold. Let's pivot to the most expensive corner of the magnesium market. Magnesium threonate. This is aggressively marketed as the brain magnesium. It's pitched almost like a limitless pill for cognitive decline, memory enhancement, and ultimate focus.
Magnesium L-threonate is a fascinating case study in how preliminary science gets catapulted into commercial hype. The reason threonate became so famous is because early research, heavily driven by animal models, suggested it was uniquely capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier and significantly elevating magnesium concentrations directly in the brain. That sparked a massive wave of excitement regarding neuroplasticity, memory formation, and potentially slowing down cognitive aging.
And the moment the supplement industry heard crosses the blood-brain barrier, they immediately slapped a premium price tag on it and told consumers it would make them geniuses.
Precisely. But here is where the critical thinking has to kick in. The leap from a highly controlled study on aging rodents to a measurable, life-changing cognitive boost in a healthy human being is a massive chasm. The human evidence for threonate is still evolving and remains relatively limited. There are some small studies suggesting potential cognitive support, particularly in older adults who are already experiencing mild cognitive concerns. But the aggressive, sweeping claims that healthy 30-year-olds need to spend premium money on threonate to maintain their edge, the clinical evidence simply does not justify that level of confidence.
Which brings up a really interesting psychological point. Because threonate is so much more expensive than other forms, I wonder how much of the perceived benefit is just a high-end placebo effect. People want to believe that because they paid $50 for a bottle, their brain must be operating on a higher frequency.
The financial investment absolutely primes the psychological expectation. You are buying the idea of cognitive optimization. And while the mechanism of threonate is scientifically intriguing, consumers need to understand they are paying a massive premium for benefits that, in human trials, remain scientifically modest. It is not going to instantly rewire your prefrontal cortex.
That is such a crucial distinction. Okay, let's look at the forgotten middle child of the magnesium family, Magnesium Malate. I usually see this one being pushed in fitness circles, targeted at muscle recovery, chronic fatigue, and energy production. What is the story there?
Magnesium malate is magnesium bound to malic acid. Malic acid is a key player in the Krebs cycle, which is the cellular pathway your mitochondria use to produce ATP or energy. Because of this connection to energy metabolism, malate is heavily marketed to people dealing with fatigue or seeking better exercise recovery. And again, the theoretical rationale is absolutely there. It makes sense biochemically. Some people subjectively report that taking malate during the day feels better for them, whereas glycinate might make them feel slightly too lethargic.
But I'm sensing a pattern here. Just because it theoretically supports cellular energy doesn't mean taking a pill is going to make you feel like you just drank 3 shots of espresso, right?
Exactly. Human physiology is infinitely more subtle than a supplement advertisement. Providing the body with malic acid and magnesium gives the mitochondria the raw materials they need, but it does not force your body to suddenly generate boundless energy if you are fundamentally exhausted from overtraining or undersleeping. Strong, universal clinical conclusions about malate instantly reversing fatigue are very difficult to prove scientifically.
It feels like we are circling the biggest trap in the entire wellness industry. People constantly confuse the phrase biologically plausible with clinically transformative.
That is perhaps the most accurate summary of modern supplement marketing I have ever heard. Biologically plausible simply means the mechanism makes sense on a whiteboard. It means in a petri dish or in a theoretical pathway, compound X should lead to result Y. But clinically transformative means that when you give compound X to a complex, living, breathing human being dealing with stress, poor diet, and environmental toxins, it actually produces a measurable, life-altering change. Those are two completely different universes.
And modern marketing thrives on erasing the distance between those two universes. It thrives on oversimplification. If you have low energy, they say take magnesium. If you have anxiety, take magnesium. Brain fog, magnesium. The industry has convinced us that complex systemic lifestyle issues are simply a magnesium deficiency in disguise.
Which is incredibly ironic because the people desperately buying these supplements for better sleep or lower anxiety are usually the ones who actually need to do the hard behavioral work. They need less midnight doom scrolling, they need morning sunlight exposure to set their circadian rhythm, they need to establish boundaries to lower their psychological stress. No form of magnesium, no matter how highly bioavailable or aggressively marketed, can fully override chronic sleep deprivation, a terrible diet, or a nervous system that is constantly in fight or flight mode. Supplements have become a convenient substitute for behavioral change.
We want to outsource our discipline to a pill. It's so much easier to swallow a capsule of magnesium glycinate than it is to put the phone in another room at 9 p.m. and confront our own thoughts. So if we strip away the marketing, the influencer affiliate links, and the exaggerated claims, what does the rigorous peer-reviewed research actually say about taking magnesium?
The balanced, evidence-based view is this: magnesium supplementation can be highly beneficial for specific individuals in specific contexts. If you have a documented low intake, if you suffer from certain types of migraines, or if you have a specific clinical deficiency, targeted supplementation can make a real difference. But the evidence varies wildly depending on the exact condition being studied, the specific form of magnesium used, and the quality of the trial. There is absolutely no robust scientific consensus that every single healthy human being needs to be micromanaging their biology with expensive designer magnesium stacks to achieve optimal health.
So it's potentially useful, but it is not universally transformative. Context is everything, and I think this perfectly transitions into how we should actually be looking at health. Because if we aren't just blindly chasing the latest supplement trend, what should we be doing? This is exactly where the philosophy behind OXYZEN Health Intelligence completely flips the script. Instead of asking, what supplement is trending on the internet today, we should be asking, what is my actual biological data telling me?
That is the paradigm shift. The era of guessing what your body needs based on an influencer's anecdote is ending. When you look at objective, continuous metrics, things like heart rate variability, deep sleep architecture, resting heart rate, and daily recovery scores, you get an unvarnished look at your actual physiology. Those metrics reveal far more meaningful information than any generalized supplement advice ever could. If you start taking magnesium glycinate and your HRV doesn't budge, and your sleep staging remains fragmented, the data is telling you that magnesium wasn't your bottleneck.
It removes the illusion. You can't lie to the data. If you are taking a premium threonate supplement, but your cognitive recovery scores are tanking because you're working 80-hour weeks and eating poorly, the data forces you to confront the reality of your habits. The future of wellness has to be data-informed and personalized. It has to be driven by real-time physiology, not by marketing hype.
Precisely, because health is never built from one miracle molecule. It is built from consistent compounding patterns. Your body cares about the rhythm of your sleep, the quality of your movement, the management of your stress, and the nutrient density of your diet. It does not care about how clever a supplements marketing campaign is.
So to bring it all together, the real truth about magnesium is that it is neither fake science, nor is it a magical cure. It is a vital piece of human biology that wellness culture has unfortunately transformed into mythology. Glycinate, threonate, and malate all serve different theoretical purposes, but none of them, absolutely none of them, are a replacement for doing the actual work of taking care of yourself.
That is the ultimate takeaway. Supplements can be tools, but they do not automatically improve health just because you swallow them. It is the interpretation of your body's data and the behavioral changes you make based on that data that actually moves the needle. Biology always favors consistency over hype.
A perfect reminder that we cannot buy our way out of bad habits. This has been OXYZEN Health Intelligence, the space where neuroscience, wearable data, metabolism, and evidence-based wellness converge to separate fact from fiction.
Because the future of health isn't about adding more to your routine. It's about understanding the context of your own body.
We will see you in the next episode. Keep questioning the hype.